joining us at chuckandlori.net today. We've got another fantastic product to review and we hope you enjoy. Hi guys, thanks for joining us today. We've got another pretty good product to review with you. We're going to be reviewing a couple of live animal traps. Specifically the brand for these are the CountyLine catch and release live animal traps. I bought these two traps as a bundle. I paid about 30 bucks for both of these put together. So I thought I got a really good deal and I was very pleased with the results. But I'm going to go over a couple of the features, a couple of things that I had to kind of adjust or create a little bit of a workaround and share that with you and hope it'll help you when you have the same problem that I did. But essentially, I had a family of 3 raccoons move in under one section of my house, and my poor cat was having a lot of problems being able to finish their meals. The raccoons can be, and these specifically were, very brave. They didn't mind coming in and eating with you. She would fight them off for a short period of time, but eventually she just got tired of it and let them have whatever was left. So I went and I picked up these traps. The small trap I haven't really used yet. The medium-sized trap is really the one that I've used so far, but they perform and are designed exactly the same. The small trap is geared toward ground squirrels, chipmunks, large rats, those kind of things. The big one's geared for possum, raccoons, armadillos, things of that nature. So I'm going to skip this little one here for a minute, and I want to kind of talk about some of the features. And as you can tell, I made a little modification to this trap, and I'm going to get into that in just a few minutes. But these traps are very lightweight. They weigh about 12.5 pounds put together if you put one inside the other, so they're not very heavy. A lot of times, you know, being lightweight, you know, I think of it as a positive, but it can be a negative. The positives are that if you have to haul this trap with a live animal in it, you don't want it to be so heavy that you can't hold it out away from your body. You don't want what's ever in there to reach his hands or paws through and scratch you, or possibly, you know, if you've got your hands up here or here, you might get bit. Not a good thing when it comes to a wild animal, especially a raccoon or anything else that may have diseases that you or I definitely don't want or need. So that's a good thing. But the negative is that some of the parts inside are kind of thin and lightweight metal. I don't think it's something that's directly related to this brand. I think all these traps are very, very similar and they do the same thing. They have to have lightweight materials. You know, if you have a real heavy plate, it's going to be harder to push it down, or harder for the animal to push it down, because they got to have there's a little mechanism or a component in that trigger that has to hold that plate up a little bit. So if you've looked at the narrative review that I did on my website, chuckandlori.net, you can see pictures of a tin can that I used. It was actually a cat food can that I used to put the food in to bait the trap. They bit so many holes in that thing. You know, people think that, you know, they're cute, they're cuddly, but you know, they can be ferocious animals, and they can really hurt you if you're not careful. So again, the lightweightness or the thin materials of metal, again, I don't think that's a problem with this trap. I think that's just the way they make them. But you know, I say that to say, before you use your trap, you want to make sure that you look it over pretty good, make sure that there's nothing damaged, test it a few times. You know, you don't want to set the thing out there and let it sit all night and your food be gone and no animal there. Now, as far as the modification I did, I had these boards just laying around in my garage, and I cut them into even sections, and I put them around the edges of the back, because one of the problems that I had to overcome is that, you know, raccoons are pretty crafty rascals. They're smart, they have good memory, they learn, And what they learned is they learned that either A, they didn't want to go in through the end of the trap, or they just didn't notice it because they went straight for the food. And because they have thumbs, they can actually stick their hand in the trap, grab the can, pull it over, and just sit there and eat through the cage. Well, that was a problem. I could sit out my window, I'm pointing at my window, it's right over there, sit outside my window and watch them eat and never get in the trap. So I put some makeshift boards up for the first night just to block them from being able to get to it, and then I strategically positioned the food where they couldn't reach it. But after I caught that first one that night, the next day I went and I cut these boards, drilled some holes in them, and just tie strapped them just so the raccoon couldn't physically reach the food without going inside. Once I did that, everything went great. Put the trap out 3 days, caught 3 raccoons. Once I was sure that all the raccoons were gone, I repaired the crawl space doors that are underneath the house so that they can't get back in. I put metal wiring around my porch, my wooden deck, that they could also gain access under the house. So it's been a couple of weeks. Actually, it's probably been 3 or 4 weeks since I caught the raccoons and released them, and haven't had any other trouble, no other animals. So we're in pretty good shape. So what we'll do now is I'm going to basically show you how easy it is to set the trap. Again, your main components is your trigger plate down here. There's a rod that locks into place on a latch on the door. To set the trap, all you're going to do is push this center bar in, which it's spring loaded, so you're pushing against the pressure of that spring, and then you're going to pick it up until it snaps into place. That's going to put this lever underneath this latch. While you're putting bait in, there's a safety mechanism on it, a little hook. You can put that hook over this bar, and when you put your hand in there to put the food into the bait, if you were to bump it, this thing won't fall on you. Just remember, when you get done, when you get it set and ready to go, you have to remove this hook, or you're not going to catch any. You're not going to catch any animals. So basically, the animal walks in this way, aims for the food back here. When he steps on the top edge of this plate, trap closes. Really simple. This one works exactly the same way. I would just say make sure you use your hook. Now, the first raccoon that I caught somehow damaged my hook, so I had to put in a little coat hanger hook, so bear with me on that. This one actually has a little bit more of a safety feature. Some of the animals that you catch in this trap are large enough to push against the gate, so they put this secondary safety feature to make sure they don't get out. You have to lift this little lever, push in, lift up, and then the same thing. That bar is going to catch that lever. While we're working on it, I'm going to put my safety in place. I can put my food in. As you can tell, my arm is not long enough to put the food in. What I did was I put the food as far as I could get it, and then I either flipped it with my hand, or I got a yardstick or something and pushed it on over that hump. But you want it to be as far back into the trap as you want. You don't want them to have their back legs here and their front legs all the way over the front, or you don't want them to stand in front of the plate and then eat over the top of it. You want to make sure it's far enough in the back that they can actually walk over it to get to the food, because if they don't step on that plate and they don't put their weight on it, it's not going to fall. Again, don't forget to remove your safety hook, and when they step on the plate, trap falls. Be very careful when you're relocating the animals. Again, raccoons, they can get their hands through here. Make sure you hold it away from your body. I would recommend wearing, some thick gloves so that if they do bite you or scratch you, it doesn't break the skin. You don't want that to happen. Outside of that, I wanted to say that with these traps, this video, or in the relocation of those raccoons, none of them were hurt or killed. I took them to another wooded area far away from my house where hopefully they can't find me again. So I hope you found this review helpful. If you did, click subscribe, click the button, the bell, and you'll get notified when additional reviews come out. But otherwise, the next product should be coming out pretty soon. We're also going to put away for you to actually order some of these products. So we're still working on that. Shouldn't be much longer before that's ready. But thanks again, and we'll see you next time.